Well, hello and welcome everyone to our, first of the year Rescom presentation, which is called Mapping Work Integrated Learning in PRIA, or PRIA as I often hear, accredited university courses. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Renae's presentation, and then I will talk about who Renae is, so that I'm going to do them in that order. So the Public Relations Institute of Australia Education Community, which this is a part of, our webinar series, has the remit of sharing knowledge and educational resources, research outcomes with the Australian public relations community. So that's what our forums are about, and I think most of you know that. Now, one such area of academic and industry interest, they're quite connected, aren't they? Education and industry in this context is integrated work integrated learning, commonly referred to as WIL, because it's the acronym for work integrated learning. And the integration of the two, I guess, speaks for itself, trying to teach in ways that are well matched to real world application is the nub of this. PRIA accredited undergraduate and postgraduate courses across Australia provide a variety of WIL, work integrated learning experiences for students. It's become a part of the education business model, and certainly in public relations education, with a vast array of methodologies and approaches being employed. Today's presentation, led by Renae Desai, Dean of School of Media and Communication, Murdoch University, Director of the school's award-winning student consultancy, MESH, MESH, and Manager of our very own PRIA EDUCom portal, where resources like recordings of today's presentation are housed, and I know she does a fabulous job of that. So the WIL project that she'll be looking at and presenting and talking to us about aims to collect and analyse case studies from each accredited university course to uncover shared ideas and novel practices and innovation in order to create and share knowledge and practice, which is what we're here to do with work integrated learning today. So I will, we've had the floor for quite a bit. So a little bit about Renae before she begins our discussion and presentation. Renae is Associate Professor and Dean of School, Media and Communication, Murdoch University, a lecturer and researcher in strategic communication, health, web communication, and is a fellow of the PRIA. And as such, she also happens to be director of the Western Australian State. No, she is Western Australian State President.
No, I was Western Australian State President.
Thank you, Renae. It's important. So you can see that Renae has a great breadth of knowledge and experience. So Renae, look, she also has interests, primary interests in online community engagement for Australian health issues, and in particular, asbestos-related diseases. And I remember Renae presented on this last year. It was quite and informative, and I certainly learned a lot at that one. She has over 20 years experience in tertiary education alongside the communication industry and a research consulting career. I might put it up there and hand to Renae so that she can lead our discussion on work integrated learning and your study into this.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Sujan. Thanks, Maddie. Good morning, everyone. It is still morning here in Perth. I'm not sure what time it is on the East Coast. And we're in orientation day here at Murdoch University. So I might get some knocks on the door. You can ignore them. I do have a sign on the door, but we know that students don't always pay attention to what's written in front of them. I thank you very much for the introduction, Chris. I have been a member of the PRIA since I was an undergraduate student in the 1990s at Curtin University. So I've been around for a very long time. I've recently been made Dean of Media and Communication through a big structural change at Murdoch Uni. So we now have a full school of media and comms. So I am the leader of the communication as well as creative media disciplines, which includes photography and screen production, sound production, games art, and graphic design, which is exciting. And I'm also have been and still am the academic chair of communication, which involves strategic comms or PR, journalism, and also global media and media studies. I've been at Murdoch for 17 years this year. I feel a little bit too young to have been at somewhere for that long. And in that period of time, I have worked in lots of different areas, but one of the key areas that I really haven't moved out of is work integrated learning. Before I was came to Murdoch, I was at EDUCom University, where I really started my real journey as an academic, managing placements and all those sorts of things for students. And then when I came to Murdoch, I got very excited because we had a major international remit. We do have campuses in Singapore and Dubai, as well as in Perth. And as most of you would know, we don't tend to be able to put all of our students out on placements. Some universities do, some don't. We certainly don't. And that's for various reasons. And one of them, when I first started this journey in work integrated learning, was because our international students weren't necessarily confident enough to go out into industry. And I'd just come out of a transition period between Edith Cowan and into Murdoch, having worked for a digital startup firm owned by, of all things, an IT company. Working on early Web 2.0 projects, building websites for Rio Tinto and all sorts of other, in health communication specifically. And when I came to Murdoch, I thought, you know what? The best way to do this is to set up a consultancy and get my students working on internal university projects. So I don't know about you guys, but the size of the university that we have and the breadth of research and industry engagement and entrepreneurship that happens at our university means that we are never, ever lacking in clients, ever. In fact, we have more clients than we can actually deal with the number of students that we have. So I first came up with this idea of a consultancy. I called it Tactics back then. And it was essentially for my postgraduate students to learn the consulting process, coming from wherever in the world they were coming from at the time. And this is back in early sort of 2009, 2010. And it grew from there into what is now known as MESH, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I, of course, am myself a product of the WA tertiary industry. I did my first degree at Curtin University, then my second at Edith Cowan. I'm now finishing, I hope, cross your fingers everyone for me, then my PhD by the end of this year at Murdoch, and then I intend to go to UWA, so I have a degree from all four of the universities in Perth. And so I'm very good friends with the colleagues in other universities in WA specifically, and very aware of the university network across Australia, specifically in public relations. So I know that there is some amazing work happening in work integrated learning. I know that there is some strong work happening in career readiness, which we've been talking about a lot in the last couple of years, especially with recent government policies coming into play. But what we haven't really done as a group of people, a group of academics in the PRIA, is surface that work and find out what everyone is doing and talk about it and then communicate it. So that's what I've decided to do this year. I had the idea late last year when we were talking, I think in the research symposium, and I was really keen to pick up another project. Now, this was before I became the dean. And now I'm the Dean of Media and Communication, so things have changed quite dramatically for me. So what I'm looking to do today is take you through just the research process that we're going to implement over the next 6 months, and stage it out over the year. And hopefully get some opinions from everyone in the room about what we might want to ask, what we might want to look for. I've set some questions which we can talk about, and then what we want the outcome to be. So I have an idea of the outcome that I would like to produce from a research perspective, but from a industry knowledge sharing perspective, as the manager of the EDUCom portal, how would we like that to look? So that's the question I'm posing to everyone now as we go ahead. And I'm very naughty. Before I should have even started talking, I should have done my acknowledgement of country, so I'm going to do that. We at Murdoch University acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation as the traditional custodians of this country and its waters, and that Murdoch University and my own home, which is just up the road, sits on Noongar country and Murdoch Budja. We pay our respects to our Noongar elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge their wisdom and advice in teaching and cultural knowledge activities, acknowledging that this Budja, Murdoch University, has been a place of learning and education for thousands of years. We're very excited at Murdoch because today we officially opened our brand new academic building, Bullakatajan, which you can read about on LinkedIn or wherever you want to at Murdoch, and with orientation and our first cohort of post-COVID students sitting out in front of Bullakatajan, being inducted into the university today. So it's a very exciting time for us at Murdoch. So, of course, Chris gave a little bit of an overview of this. Effectively, we're looking to share knowledge through the PRIA ECC, or Education Community Committee, through the EDUCom portal. So I wanted to put the EDUCom URL up there. I won't try and open it because it'll probably muck around with my presentation, so I won't do that. But if anyone wants to go and have a look at EDUCom, we've developed this over probably, how long now, Chris, do you think? About 2 years now, I think. I think we started a couple of years ago.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely during COVID because I built it while I was in my office at home online during measurement and evaluation month a few years ago. And it has definitely grown quite significantly since then. I've just uploaded the full calendar for Rescom for 2023. So everybody go in and have a look at that as well. And we're hoping to use the EDUCom over time and develop it into this big knowledge sharing platform, open access knowledge sharing platform led by the Public Relations Institute of Australia, ECC. So that's the whole idea of the EDUCom. So this project is all about analysing and collecting those case studies from the various universities across the country that are accredited by the PRIA. I don't intend to stop there. We'll start with that, but we definitely intend to then shift that out to other universities that might not necessarily be PRIA accredited, but potentially affiliated with the PRIA in other parts of the world, specifically in New Zealand. So we'd love to go into New Zealand and see what our colleagues over the ditch are doing. And also our mates over in South Africa, because I have some good connections with a few universities in South Africa as well. Of course, a lot of us are doing transnational education, not just Murdoch. We are strong across Southeast Asia in communication. So we want to see what we're doing in other parts of the world as well. But big enough job just to start with our own backyard and getting information together about what we're doing ourselves within the PRIA. So I'm just going to talk about the development of this first stage, my plans, and then see if we can get some feedback from everybody. So what is WIL? Now, it's got different terms at different universities for various reasons. In the United States, it's called something a bit different. In England, they call it something different. But effectively, it's just an umbrella term that describes the methodologies we use to integrate real world or industry learning experience into curricula. So that's pretty much what it is. It can be sometimes called career learning or real world learning. I'm really interested to find out what we're all calling it in different parts and different universities, and develop a glossary and all those sorts of things. But work integrated learning is, or will, is necessarily the big umbrella term. And it occurs in lots and lots of guises. So at Murdoch, we have a bit of a matrix, because of course universities love matrices, and everything from a sort of what you call low will, which is case studies in class, which is separated a bit from the actual industry, all the way through to the practicums or placements or internships. And again, we use different words for some of these things. Even Murdoch, we use the word practicum as well as placement as well as internship. So we need to sort of, I think, come up with a better methodology for that over our across the universities. But it can also include simulations, for example, and client projects in class. And here at Murdoch, we focus very much on that in-class simulation and client project from first year. And then we have the big internships or placements towards the end of the second year going into the third year. I'm expecting to find that that's very similar across the university sector. But in PR and communication, and I have to call it communication because, of course, in our school, it's called strategic communication, not public relations, used to be, but that's a whole different discussion. And I am a traditional PR person, so I'm just putting my hand up with that. In our industry, with even our related discipline areas like marketing and creative media, will is a tested and widely embraced area of curriculum. It's not something we've been doing just recently. It has been in some way, shape or form a part of what we do in pedagogy for decades, necessarily because academia in these areas have attracted, in most cases, industry people to start with. Not so much now, but very much the beginning stages of the development of communication or public relations, specifically as a disciplinary in tertiary education. It was a bit of a unicorn moment to find someone who might have a PhD as also a researcher, a practiced industry professional, and all of the above. And that is less so now because we have developed over time and we are maturing as an academic discipline. So we have many, many more people with PhDs, many more tried and tested research academics. In fact, we have some very famous academics who are working in Australia, who have been there this whole time to develop our industry. But we still attract industry people to the academy. And that is why we end up with a natural progression into work integrated learning. It's just something that we do and is part of our DNA. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about MESH and the project that we have been running for many, many years. So of course, it's about a decade old. It's a bit longer than that, but I use that sort of 10-year period as a basis. It encompasses the wide range. So everything from student projects in class through to academic research projects, of which I was explaining to Chris, our project for the CRC, or the Cooperative Research Centre in Mining Economies, is actually one of those. So I work with other academics in my school who are industry practitioners in graphic design, in games art and IT development, and we build things. We build websites and apps, and in this case, a little mini Google, all sorts of interesting things, primarily for knowledge translation and communication. And then, of course, we have consultancy services that we provide through curriculum out to the university and external to external clients. Now, unlike other universities, we do have a specific remit for not-for-profit organisations. So we tend not to, within curricula, not in internships, but within in-class curricula, most of the clients we work with are non-profit, or they're government research agencies, or they're within the university. And that is because of a particular stance that Murdoch has for community engagement and for giving back to the community. And to be frank, we don't need to go outside of that. We have so many clients just in that space. But we do have our students in placement, as most of you would, if you're an academic in the room, go out to industry placements in all sorts of organisations. Which is exciting. Of course, that stopped a little bit over COVID. I'm not sure if any of you had the same experience as we did, where organisations, external organisations were a bit reluctant to take students on over COVID. And so Mesh exploded, literally. I went from maybe having 1 or 2 student consultants to up to 10 to 15 student consultants in a year over COVID, because they simply couldn't go out and do a placement externally. So the model is designed to provide communication, creative media, design undergrad and postgrad students with real life work integrated learning opportunities in all locations in Perth, Singapore and Dubai. So we do run Mesh as a program across the world now. And again, that happened because of COVID, because we really needed just to maintain our industry contact and those industry clients, even while we were undertaking online learning in most cases. Now, the students are guided by academic staff in the guise of what we call unit coordinators. You guys might call module coordinators. So in those units, the unit coordinator is also a consultant for Mesh, depending on what their expertise is. So my colleague, Dr. Mark Seifer, who's the academic chair of graphic design, is the head of UX, user experience and design for Mesh. So when he's working on Mesh clients in his units, they're working for him as the UX manager for Mesh. My other colleague, Maeve Berry, is the managing consultant for Mesh, specifically for Stratcoms and web communication. And in her units, the students work for her as well as as well as the unit coordinator. And that's the model that we've sort of developed over time. It's become an accepted model at the university, an accepted will model as well. And has then been integrated into other programs outside of our school. So we do have science students, IT students, specifically marketing and business students, come and do Mesh projects through our work integrated learning spine, they call it, or career learning spine units. We have a unit called MSP 201, which is real world learning. And we can have students from anywhere apply to work for Mesh. But it is primarily for communications and creative media. So I'm not sure if you have the same experience that I do, but everybody wants a video. Everybody wants a website. Everyone wants a social media plan. And more importantly, and more recently, everybody wants a podcast. And of course, photography all the time. There was a period of time, probably a few years ago, where Mesh was kind of seen as a free way to get, you know, high quality content produced for different projects. And we've really moved away from that to a support to the university necessarily. I am myself leading the new Murdoch University website development program. So over the next few years, there's going to be a whole bunch of new websites that are being built for various projects and all sorts of things. And I'm working with the central marketing and comms team alongside my Mesh students to do that as well. So there's Mesh has just gone from just providing a bit of a interesting little real world experience from our postgrad students to our actual working consultancy with a large client list, from everything from sustainability projects all the way up to mining projects, predominantly in that not-for-profit and research space. So I'll just skip over that. So if you want to have a look at Mesh, it's mesh@murdoch.com. Go and check it out. It's an old website. It's not, we're going to be changing it, just saying, in the next few months. But the old one is still there, and it gives you an idea of how Mesh works in curriculum. But that's just mine. And I know that there are many other projects happening. I follow a lot of my colleagues on LinkedIn. So I've seen Deb Wise running some amazing projects. I've seen RMIT running amazing projects. Jen Robinson's a good friend of mine, so I've been watching the work that they're doing. But of course, this year, in 2022, just gone, not only did Chris win Educator of the Year, which we should all be clapping for, because that's a major achievement. Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you.
No worries. We should all be very proud of each other with these sorts of things. It's amazing. But 2 projects got up for the education program of the year. One was my good friends at Curtin University, Katarina Wolf and Bridget Tombleson, on their reflective practice practicum unit, which is gold standard professional placement or practicum experience for their students. So it's not just providing a placement. And I will be honest, I did this placement unit back in 1995. 1996. So I know the unit itself. I got my start doing work integrated learning with Robertson Hill and Knowlton a long time ago. But they've done a lot of work on wrapping not just the experience itself going out to the industry, but also the preparation to go out into industry, the support around that, and a whole lot of other amazing frameworks that are over and above a standard placement unit. So I'm really looking forward to pulling that out of Katarina and getting that case study written. And also our mates at RMIT with their Empowering Next Generation Workforce project. That's just 2 projects that we know of because they went into the Golden Target Awards. So the idea is I will start to build out these case studies, hopefully from each of the currently 19 accredited university courses. Now, those that number 19 has just come from the PRIA website. We do know that the accreditation process is a fluid process. So we'll find out, where exactly we're at any one point in time with accreditation. But effectively, there are 19 courses that are 19 university courses that are listed on the PRIA website now, which we'll start use as a basing jump-off point. And then we'll see if there's any others potentially in the future, or if anyone is thinking about looking at accreditation for a different type of program, and we'll start to glean that information. But what I'm really looking for is what is the will in those 19 programs? What is the core nut of work integrated learning in those programs, to find out a few things. So I've just drafted some questions, and this is for me to start with, but I'm very keen for everyone to share their questions with me either today or to shoot me emails at any point in time. So I
have one question that has come in.
Yeah, cool.
And it's asking, can PRIA members get some exposure as a consultancy destination, that are consultancies, as a training destination for people to come in and get some experience there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of Chris, do you want to talk from your perspective how you guys do it? How do you sort of engage with consultancies in your programs?
Yeah, not much is happening in the landscape of my small university in public relations. There are other disciplines that are doing a lot in the will space. Some of what you've talked about, and of course, look, I don't want to take up time rambling, but something that comes to mind is just a very obvious thing for everyone is education. They all have to get placements, and there are other disciplines as well. Yep. But beyond that, computing and IT and business, and they're all trying to do that. I guess we have sometimes or often the problem of having more students than places, which is the opposite of what you have.
Yeah.
Another thing that we face, and a lot of places would face, Renae, today, we've always been primarily a distance education provider, and it's not always a barrier, but it often can be, particularly if they're at remote locations and they don't have, they might be in the mid parenthood years and can't just but then we can do a lot online these days. Exactly. So I'll hand back to you. Yeah,
I think the question is really, it comes down to each individual university course, and it kind of always has. Those relationships between the consultancies or the external organizations and the university really come down to the academics working in the space, because in the end it's just about relationships. So if as a consultancy you're really keen to have students come and work with you through placement or potentially through project, the best way is to contact the university and find out the closest university to you, or if you want to have that particular relationship with a university. Of course, there's many across the country now, it's really just getting in touch. That is kind of one of the reasons we've built the EDUCom, so to make it easier for people to find us, and make it easier for anyone in education and industry to see what's actually happening, to try and surface it. So maybe one of the outcomes from this, Chris, and I'll better write some notes after after this presentation, is to potentially develop a list of the universities, accredited universities, and who the course coordinators are, even though that currently is on the PRIA website. So you can go and see that, and the listed contact is on the PRIA website, but we might do it from a work integrated learning perspective, and universities that want to reach out that way. We might be able to start that sort of list. I definitely do. I'm very keen on cross international and Australian based projects, and do work on some for our students, but like I said, we are full all the time just with our own university projects, not even needing to go outside. But I think there's a kernel of an idea of potentially making that a more national activity. I think could be really cool, with a network of the universities working together. I hope that answers.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry if I butted in there. Yeah.
No.
Look, I've reflected upon the question you've asked, and I've had more time to think it over. We do have, and I guess this would be common amongst all of us who are here today in the education space, a project course or a similar name at the end, and students can be, as you described, be given or find an industry project, or they can do an internship. In the case of my university, University of Southern Queensland, we can assist, but we normally put the onus on the student to say find their internship. But if they ask for help, we will give them help. But when they enroll in that will-based course, they have options, so that if they're remote and they just don't have perhaps the time or the resources to be able to work in an internship situation, there's a bunch of streaming alternatives in the course. Thanks, Renae.
Yeah, no, I agree that most of, if not all of us, will have a capstone unit of sorts at the end of our degree. Ours is called campaign management. I'm sure it's there's many others. We've got in web, it's called Web Communication Project, and also the placement unit as well. So I think from an accreditation perspective, we can assume, although I won't, I'll go and do this work, but we can safely assume that almost all universities teaching public relations are going to have a capstone work integrated learning unit in some way, shape or form, as well as a placement unit. So we know that we are delivering the curricula to the students and giving them that opportunity. What I'm really interested in is how we're doing it. And are there innovations? We know there's innovations. What are the innovations that are happening? Like the Golden Target Award winners from RMIT and Curtin, but I know that there's many others that I'm reading about just on social media. What are the types of projects we're working on? What's being attracted to the universities? I've seen a lot of projects in sustainability recently, environmental sustainability, potentially because that's something that we're all looking at the moment. There's been quite a bit of work in COVID and health communication, but I'm really interested to find out, at least for the last couple of years, what have we been working on as a collective over the country, and therefore what are the experiences our students are getting, and what can we learn from that going into the future, and potentially put a bit of a framework around it, learning from ourselves as well as our colleagues in other parts of the world who are also doing amazing work. If you think about it, the amount of work integrated learning happening at the universities all over the world is mind-boggling, actually, at any one given point in time. It's a very big activity. And I just want to try and eat the elephant slowly and try and pull some learning out so that we can move forward. So the method that we're going to use, I'll use a mixed methods approach, but it's really a qualitative analysis of a bank of case studies. I'm both thinking as we're talking, we're going to need to do some interviews, I think, definitely. And I might, if anyone in the room is interested in jumping on this project with me, please just email me, because I'm going to have to recruit a project team, not just the actual participants themselves. And I think this is a really cool opportunity for us to work together as academics on a project that's important to us all. So probably some interviews. We'll likely do a focus group at some point in time. I'm going to start with a stage 1 lit review and get a proposal together to present to the ECC as well as the PRIA, to the board of the PRIA, because we know that this is an important subject for everyone. Then I'll develop a case study template and see if we can get that out to all the course coordinators of the accredited universities, give people plenty of time. Don't worry, there's no time frame around this project other than what we want to glean. Then we'll do some participant recruitment and start collecting those case studies in the second half of the year. So we can do a bit of textual analysis, potentially content analysis, and then maybe some follow-up surveys and interviews next year. Now, this is just a draft methodology. It will likely change. I do believe I'm going to, if I run it out of Murdoch or collaborate with any other universities, we're probably going to need to get ethics approval. That's okay. We'll do that sometime in the first half of the year as well. I'd like to try and keep it nice and tight to start with and stage it out so we actually have outcomes and we're able to, at least as a minimum, present something at the symposium at the end of our yearly research symposium, which I think would be really cool. And then have some sort of project to show and to deliver going into the future. So that's the idea behind the method. And these are my idea of outcomes. Again, completely open to everyone's input here. For me, it's about understanding what we're doing because there are so many drivers for work integrated learning at the moment, but from the sector, from individual universities, also from the government. The Job Ready Graduates package has some impact on how we prepare our students to go into the workforce. Our industry is generally under siege, but at the same time, it's growing because, of course, we've just shown our worth during COVID and how important communications actually is to the world. And I think people as organizations are stepping up and understanding our value. And we need to show that value from early stages of career development, right at the first year of university. I think I'll be honest, the literal driver for me is to show the amazing work that we're doing in our universities. That's really what I'm doing. There's lots of cool other outcomes we can get from it, but really I just want to go and find out what my colleagues are doing and then celebrate it because I don't think we do enough of that. We are nose to the grind every single day of our academic careers. We do this for love, but we are also very good at this particular activity. So I want to show it and I want to celebrate it and find out what everyone else is doing and maybe, pinch some ideas, share a few of mine. Chris, I think we need to talk. I'm very interested about how distance learning can work for universities like Southern Queensland, CQU, a whole bunch of others, potentially other universities in South Africa and in New Zealand. Because our model is effectively almost entirely online or has been. We're moving back into real world, but really for the last few years, it's been almost entirely online. So I think we've learned a lot from that.
I must agree. And this is it, isn't it? COVID has been an unfortunate eventuation, but it's kind of really solidly proven that people can work and productively from home and that somebody in a remote location can be a productive will worker for their own benefit and for the benefit of whom they might be carrying out work for.
Absolutely.
Renae?
Absolutely. The one I wish we didn't have to go through this as a globe. It was not something that any of us wanted to go through, but it happened. But what it really proved is that communication doesn't need to be in an office, never is. In the World Health Organization, governments around the world ran major communication campaigns, stepped up to major communication campaigns, primarily from people's kitchens. So we saw some amazing work come out of necessity and need and the desire to communicate and engage with people for literally to save people's lives, to save our lives, to save not just our lives, our way of life. I feel I'm very passionate about this, everyone. I'm a health communications person by background. And what we did during COVID, what my students did during COVID, I'm sure what your students did, was just amazing. And I don't want to lose the opportunity for us to at least showcase some of that just from our own perspective, because there's going to be academic pedagogy and scholarship and all sorts of things coming out for the next decade from COVID. But there are some things we did really well as communications people across the globe, and I really want to celebrate that. And this is just sort of one of them. So that's sorry, I'm just going to hang on, I may have lost myself. Can you still see me, Chris?
Yes, we can still
see. Oh, good, thank
you,
goodness.
yeah.
I've got two screens. Sorry, everyone, the technology is not working for me properly. The other, can you see that, the Mesh website?
No,
we can see a slide
at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I think I might have actually lost. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to bring it over to here. I've lost my screen. That's okay. So I'm going to probably stop talking there. I think you get the gist of what it is that I want to do and I'm trying to do. So the few things I need to do in the next couple of months. One is to get a small project team together around the country. I think we're pretty much covered in WA, but it'd be great to have a colleague in each of the states who's keen to help me get this project up and running. And then also, if there's any industry colleagues who are in the room or that you know of who might be interested in being part of the project as well. We don't really want a huge team, probably up to about maybe 10 people at the most. And then we'll start getting this proposal together to sort of shift and move forward. So does anyone have any questions? Does anyone put their hand up and actually speak? Because I think Maddie is happy to let people talk directly rather than use the chat. I'm just going to go to the Q&A if there's.
I see that the one question there is one that you might want to talk to more, but I think you answered that because I sort of put it in earlier, but the question about how do you see wider industry getting involved, and you said, you know, you made the points, come and see us. That is your local or university of choice. That you would like to.
Yeah, just, I mean, to get involved in the project, I'm more than happy to, I realize I didn't put my email address in my presentation, silly me, but you can Google me and find me pretty easily. My email address is r.desai@murdoch.edu.au. You can come and contact me directly if you're keen. I think I'm starting to feel the nut of a little sub-project around the industry engagement component, which we might need to do. So I'll need to have a think about that from a methodology perspective. But when I say industry is welcome, we can't do work integrated learning without the industry. Therefore, we're all in the same boat with this on two sides of the coin. So if you're interested in being involved, please just shoot me an email. I'm very excited to get that sort of engagement going. So does anyone else have any particular questions for me, or anyone put their hand up? I'm just having a look at.
It's a quiet day.
It is, and that's fine because it's recorded.
That's right. That's right.
And it's not a problem at all. It is also, you know, I think it's lunchtime over on your side of the world, isn't it?
Yes, just after.
Just after lunchtime. So yeah, that's all I have to say. I can go on for probably an entire unit talking, entire semester talking about work integrated learning, but I think we're ready to get stuck into doing something quite fun and interesting.
Well, thank you very much, Renae, for a really insightful presentation, and what's you know, one of the exciting things about it is it's the launch. You've launched a project today for us that and welcomed people to come on board and get involved, and that's a great way to start the year, I think. and you'd be hard pressed to find a more important and relevant topic and area.
Yeah.
Something that we're all interested in, as you have rightly pointed out. it's not just something that universities are interested in. Yes, we are approaching industry and saying, please get involved, but it is a two-way thing. They want our about to graduate students, and give them. I'll talk casually here, but you know, it works at different levels. But a bit of a test run, if I was to use a cliche. And you know, it's it's an information finding system that is also a mutual or two-way thing, is it not? In that the student gets to get some experiences and work out what kinds of things they most like, and other aspects of the job.
The way we run it is because it is very consulting focused. It started off as very external consulting focus, but really it's just about being the communications consultant, whether or not it's internal or external. It doesn't really matter. You know, this whole idea of learning how to take a brief, learning how to listen, proper organizational listening, learn how to engage and to develop relationship with your client or with your boss or whoever it is that you're working for, in order to really understand what that nut of communication is that needs to be done in that instance, whether or not it's a long-term plan or a short-term plan, digital or not, it doesn't really matter. And what I've found myself is my students come out of the experience really understanding that they either want to be a consultant or they want to be in-house, at least to start with. You know, it helps them narrow their job search when they first go out into industry. It's very rare to find a student that is kind of wants to do both. But what I really get a kick out of is when I have a comms student who's doing a double degree in creative media and is also a photographer and a videographer. The work that we get out of them is just amazing. And my clients are forever grateful. Last year, we built a website for the Autism Research Lab here at Murdoch, who are doing some amazing work in autism engagement, community engagement for people living on the spectrum. So we built their website and did some video work for them. And that was just, and it's a small thing for us, but a big deal for them. And I had 3 students, a psych student, a web design student, and a comms/screen student produce that content. And it's one of the most proudest moments I've had was the day I sat with the client and pressed go on the WordPress website and it launched, and they were so happy, they were teary, you know, that happy. Working on, at the moment, we're working on the Digitisation Centre of WA, which is a ARC grant funded project based at UWA. Amazing project. I won't go into it. You can read about it. But we're doing some amazing work with them. And I get a kick out of it, not just as an academic, but also as a creative consultant myself, you know, being able to give back to community through these amazing projects just keeps my job exciting as much as it does for the students. You know, I got to be selfish. I do a lot of it for myself to keep my interest in my job. But yeah, we've had some amazing outcomes, and we're just kicking off a new project with the Meningitis Centre of Australia. There's all sorts of cool things happening, and it's just me. I can't even imagine what everybody else is doing.
That's fabulous, Renae, and I'm excited about the project. I think it's such a good idea. You've titled it "Mapping Work Integrated Learning Will in PRIA Accredited Courses," and it's like a case study an investigation of case studies of will in that context, and that's a terrific thing. And it will be interesting to share the insights of that, beginning with the research symposium toward the end of the year.
Maybe another presentation at this time next year on what we got out of.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's it. I think, well, I'm all done if you guys are all done.
Would you like to add, Sujin?
I just have a question in general, like because the deliverable may be similar to the communication product we deliver as part of capstone subject. But always I would just wonder if students work as a consultancy, and then is there any needs from the industry regarding like audience insight, like more research focus?
Yep.
Like a student can do interview, they can do some observation, they can do survey, and then so they collate all insight and then present some recommendation for the client.
Yep. Are you saying is that
Yeah, there's any
that sort of will
like,
as well?
yeah, kind of demand.
Yeah.
From the industry. So rather than, you know, like it sounds all great, like creating a podcast website and so on. So clients are happy with that and you are proud. And so I think that it's so beyond those. And then I just wonder, is there any demand from the industry about those research focused?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even I didn't go into that, but MESH has run across our entire curriculum. I'm just focusing on the, you know, the stuff that we all really understand. But I run MESH through we've got 2 units called Web Analytics and Web Research in Perth, Singapore and Dubai. And we work on real life projects in deep web research, teaching the students to analyze analytics, analyze big data sets, create research reports for in some cases real life clients, in others it's hypothetical client. In Singapore, we've worked with Mothership for a while, and at the moment we've for the sake of switching up the assignment, we've moved to the World Health Organization this semester. In the postgraduate program, we work across communication research and strategic communication. So because MESH doesn't just run in Stratcoms, it does run in media studies. The amount of work that we get asked to do in research is quite substantial. And that's what I'm hoping to do in my case study, is really map out and explain all of the different types of activities and consultancies we do.
All right, sounds great.
Yeah, it's very cool, I got to say. I'm a data nerd, so I enjoy the data work.
That was a really good question, if you don't mind me saying. I'm not being patronizing, because, you know, yeah, that's, yeah, when you've got such a small amount of time to do a presentation.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got to, but yeah, that kind of opens up the doors and shows us that more of the full gamut of where Will can
go.
Yeah.
Comms isn't just about output of cool websites. See, we know that. Everything from the prelim research right out to the deliverable at the end. And this is exact, Sujin. I've been thinking about this myself. My own university wants me to explain it.
No, because I don't know, you know, that like you know, UTS is actually going through the PGAP accreditation, and then I'm actually in charge of a research master subject, and then I was keep thinking like how I can actually improve industry presence in my research subject, and then so I was looking for industry client, and then I heard from other experts saying that there might be actual clients interested. But then I was thinking like how we can actually make something sexy deliverables to industry perspective. So not only you know, evaluating our student performance, but at the end we need to deliver something that actually the partner also would appreciate. So I was thinking, so at some point, because we have some kind of rule that we should make a certain percent group assignment, some of them actually individual, but at the end I really wanted to have something as a, you know, kind of a short summary of findings or great implication for the client. So when client reads something, but it's more like a triangulation of the all different data insights, so at the end client can read one report at the end.
I've got a brief I can share with you.
Yes, there was something like this. I was imagining like that. So at some point, there should be some group element, then we can evaluate individual students' accuracy of analysis and depth of analysis, but then going back at the end, what client would get. Yeah, that's what I was thinking yesterday.
I'm happy to have a chat with you about that. That's the stuff I enjoy doing, and I particularly around explaining the value of communication research, which is an entirely different conversation to this, but at the same time, you know, I don't know about you, but I've always found research as a communication research is a bit of an enigma to try and explain its value within the curricula, but also externally, necessarily because of money. I think that's changed quite dramatically. You know, we've got colleagues who have launched whole consultancies around this now, especially with Deb Camden and the work that they're doing in measurement and evaluation. Yeah, this is, I think we should talk. This is very exciting.
Yeah, but I was thinking, yeah, so probably there should be some kind of way that we can actually address WIL and then also the research thing. So anyway, it's good.
We've just had a thank you for the presentation, and session, so that's nice to
No worries.
nice
Thank
to get. So thank you again, Renae, and a great way to kick off our Rescom for this year. And thank you everyone who has attended, and we look forward to seeing you at the at our next one toward the end of next month, March.
And have a great first couple of weeks of semester, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you.
No worries. See you later.